Picture-perfect plantings, immaculate foliar canopies, and of course mega harvests certainly sell the sizzle. Although I'm certainly guilty of this too, it's just not a reality 100% of the time out in the garden. Eventually, there will be a failure. More than likely, multiple. Sometimes, it's completely out of our control, while others, it's a direct result of our missteps. In the world of gardening, however, every day is a lesson. Every day, we learn something new, and we learn far more from our mistakes than we do our successes. So for this video, with summer now in the rear view mirror, I'm going to look back at my top 8 mistakes from this past season, so that next spring and summer, we can both be better gardeners. Mistakes in the garden can be big, small, and everything in between. But when I'm categorizing my mistakes, they seem to fall into one of two categories: crop-specific or just general gardening mistakes. And one of the biggest gardening mistakes we can make is with our watering. Either too much or too little. And for me this year, it was too little. My biggest mistake was for my container crops, like these peas here. Just not enough water to match where the plant was at in its life cycle. Not enough available moisture to match the growing foliage and the subsequent increase in transpiration rate. Early on, bi-weekly waterings was plenty, even on really warm days. But as the plants grow and the canopies expand, the amount at which they use the water and transpire is magnified. I really saw it in my peas, peppers, and tomatoes, and it was really magnified by those that were in containers. Next year it'll be different, and I'll watch it much more closely. Speaking of watching things more closely, we got animals. In my case, I've been pretty lucky over the years in that we don't really have any of the burrowing bad guys where I live. This year though, it was all about the rats. In the past, my pup Emma was the garden's protector. Raccoons, cats, really any suburban nuisance, and my dog was on it. She would let all the squirrels and rats know who was the boss, and I didn't have to worry too much about them. And while she still takes care of the squirrels, she's much too refined and dignified now to be chasing away any rodents. So, if I don't want my most precious crops completely undermined in the future, well, I'm gonna have to watch this one and act accordingly. I usually let nature take its course and strike a balance when it comes to pests in my garden because the good guy predators do such a great job of it. But when it comes to something as voracious and tenacious as a bunch of rats, well, I'm not willing to sacrifice my plants. Even when the crops are successful, like these container onions here, mistakes can still be made. This year was notorious for either not harvesting or not harvesting on time. This was the year that we created so much epic bounty and so many amazing crop harvests that sometimes, well, we left it on the plant to just wither and die. I need to be more proactive with harvesting and preserving, as well as gifting the rewards when they become too great. Get it picked and pulled when it needs to be, and then act accordingly, instead of just letting it waste away on the vine for no benefit. And what goes hand in hand with not harvesting, or at least being negligent in that respect, is planting too much of the same stuff. Overplanting was definitely a theme this year, partly due to being excited to try some new varieties and methods, but mostly due to mismanagement. More than a few crops were grown successfully full term and then just left unpicked, simply because so much had already been harvested. Instead, next year will be much more variety and much less overplanting. Timing and preparing for the harvest as well as getting better at storage and preservation, can also help with this. Which brings me to my garlic. Annually, my biggest harvest and easily my most successful crop. This year, though, it got to be a bit too much. Now, for the last 15 years, I've perfected a system of growing exactly how much garlic I've needed to eat, coupled with exactly how much I need left over to plant for the next season. When I started making more and more garlic videos, well, I started planting more and more garlic. Too much more. So not only was there an overabundance, I was also not harvesting the stuff in the ground in time. And whenever garlic is harvested too late and left in the ground for too long, it splits, falls apart, and becomes impossible to store. We then go from having too much garlic to then having not enough. Next garlic season, which actually starts this fall in less than a month, I'm going back to basics. 2 new varieties and a much more manageable bulb count. I'm really excited about this one. Another missed opportunity to avoid a lot of unnecessary work in the garden, and quite frankly, outright crop failures, is diligent pruning. I just didn't have it this year, and my pruning game was severely lacking. Now, not all crops need it. Certainly not ones like garlic, onions, or even strawberries. But the perennials, the peppers, and definitely the tomatoes all benefit from staking and pruning. Indeterminate or vine-type tomatoes are the main focus here, and I need to do a much better job of reining in their growth next season. I was good, if not laser focused on the suckers, and the harvests were still legendary. But foliar management was severely lacking, and I can do a much better job of this. Next year, I will. Another big mistake this year, which I didn't realize until the end of the season, was overconfidence. And it manifested itself in trying to grow crops in a window where it was so difficult that it just didn't make sense. The example that sticks out the most would be planting my brassicas for a midsummer harvest. You know, when the weather is at its hottest. No amount of mulch, shade, water, or TLC can make up for the damage that the heat and then the pests cause my broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and kale. They just weren't worth the effort to plant them at that time, and waiting an extra month or so makes all the difference. I'm usually spot on with my timing for most of my crops, so this one I'll chalk up to just overconfidence. And lastly, the 8th and final mistake that I'm going to eliminate for next year is to plant more of what I want, like these herbs here. With the craziness that spring brings, it can be a race just to get crops into the ground. As a temperate grower with frost dates and a true winter, once the window passes to plant a crop, that's it. You're not getting a chance again until next year. And for me this year, that meant no melons, no spaghetti squash, and not nearly enough carrots or beets. It purely comes down to crop management and winter planning, and it's an easy fix. But still, it's something I need to be on top of. Speaking about staying on top of it, that was a lot of information. Or more accurately, a lot of mistakes. Let's go ahead and recap them all so that we don't make the same ones again next year. Even with perfect timing, crop choice, planting depth, spacing, fertilizing, and great soil, there can still be mistakes made in the garden. Hopefully today, seeing some of the ones that I made this year help you to avoid them and enjoy more gardening success as the seasons roll on. As always, guys, happy growing, and I'll see you in the next one.